Hi, I'm Ashley Mazurek with the CHEK faculty, and today we're going to talk about Hannah's three-part side flexion and why you would do it. What's the benefits to this Hannah three-part side flexion? First of all, we're going to use this as a means to centralizing a disc that could potentially be popping out in a protrusion, hopefully not, and centralize it so that you can reduce your pain. First and foremost, don't forget that these are all assumptions that we're making. So unless you've checked with a practitioner as to what's truly going on, this exercise may or may not benefit you. But what we're going to assume that there is a post-lateral bulge, and these three-part side flexion is going to help centralize it. So when we do this particular exercise, what I would encourage you to do is about 10 repetitions, 2 to 3 times throughout the day. But ultimately, what I would encourage you to look at even further is why you have that disc bulge. Oftentimes, it's because of a scoliotic pattern. What's a scoliotic pattern? It's when the spine goes into a curvature. Okay, why does that happen? Well, because there's a pelvic torsion, meaning the pelvis, if this is the ilium, it's torqued. So you've got one flexion and maybe an extension on the other side, or this is just flexed. And what that does is it causes the spine to go, the lumbar spine specifically, to go into a scoliosis, which when it does go into that curve, can you see how the vertebral bodies would open up that space for the disc to pop out? So if that's the case, which most likely it is, you need to find somebody that can correct it, mobilize it, and then refacilitate it with exercises. CHEK practitioners do that, whether it's a IMS 1, 2, 3, or 4. That's what I would recommend before we go into showing you the exercise. So what you would do is essentially you would lay on your side and then take your hips and knees at 90 degrees. Lie down with your head and neck supported in its neutral alignment. And with this, you're going to go into an in-total rotation from the hip with your lower extremity. And then couple that with side flexion. And then what I want you to do is always you want to couple movements with breath. So it would be exhale on the side flexion, and then as you release and go down, you would inhale and then exhale. And do that approximately 10 times. After you're done, go ahead and sit up, and it should feel a whole lot better. What I would encourage you to always do, if you're having or you have had pain in the past intermittently, is concentrating on your breath, and the breath is coupled with a diaphragmatic activation of the transverse abdominis. So when you breathe through pierced lips with your tongue behind the roof of your mouth, behind the 2 front teeth of your mouth, and exhale just like that. So internal rotation of the leg and side flexion with the torso. Now, another most important thing of why you would do Hannah's three-part side flexion is something that has to do with sort of a coupling of once you've centralized the discs, you want to make sure that the integration of your intrinsic system with your outer unit system is sequencing properly. And chances are, big chances are, that if you have been in pain for 1, 2, 3, maybe a week, maybe even more, or coupled in 5-year spans for 18 years intermittently, then you most likely don't have a transverse abdominis that's properly functioning with a breath diaphragmatically. Oftentimes when you're in pain, your respiration goes high and you tend to be an upper respiratory breather. So that's for a whole nother conversation when we talk about breath, but I'm gonna give you a short little teaching here on activation of transverse abdominis. Hannah's three-part side flexion is going to be about working on sequencing your neuromuscular stabilization system by coupling breath and transversus and then obliques and rectus abdominis. That way your core is functioning correctly. Now, Just know that if you have had that experience of pain in the past, I would also encourage you to find someone to make sure that they can teach you your primal patterns. So it's a squat, a bend, a lunge, a push, a press, and a twist. Teach you to do those properly, so you don't get another back injury, so you don't compensate, so that you're not in pain. But not only teaching you how to move correctly so that your spine doesn't take the hit and doesn't get injured, but more importantly that you use your stabilization system and it has to be reintegrated back into your primal patterns. So a lot of people don't know that. And so how you can know for sure is you'll hear the same story. I was in pain 10 years ago, and then, I sat in bed for 2 days, I got better, and everything was fine. I was careful with my movements, and then all of a sudden one day I went down to pick up a pencil and my back went out again. Yes, that's because you were doing a bend pattern without your stabilization system supporting your spine and your lumbopelvic. So let's teach you how to take care of that. Only if you promise to go see someone that also take care of the rest. So we're going to use 3-part Hannah side flexion to accomplish that reintegration. So this is super fun. So you go back in that sideline position, go back into supporting that head with a pillow or a 4-inch foam roller, or your hand for that matter. And so you're going to take your hand that's up to your waist. And so normally functioning, when you internally rotate this leg, you should feel the muscles in here activate and turn on. And that's because whenever the transversus turns on or activates, it works on a feed forward loop. Every time you have a thought that you're going to get up or move or do something, 130 milliseconds before you do that, the transversus turns on to support your lower extremities, and 30 milliseconds before the upper extremities. So it's supposed to turn on to support you while you move all day long. That's why it's a tonic stabilizer muscle. So go ahead and see for yourself as you're laying down and you're listening to me. Just go ahead, put your hands there in the side of your waist, and then internally rotate your leg. And do you feel the muscles activate? Some say yes, some might say no. For those of you who say no, what I want you to do is now use your breath to activate and charge this transverse. So what you'll do is from the lower abdominals, which is where this breath should start, take a deep breath, inhale, belly expands and fills, and as you exhale, forced pursed lips, then internally rotate the leg, and you should feel a little inkling of it turning on. Now, for me, it feels very, very strong. But if it doesn't feel strong to you and you don't feel the muscles that are very conditioned, then we need to get you to continue to keep doing this. So let's go through it one more time. Inhale. And so to start this phase 1 of this, let's talk about the program design of that. So what I would like you to do is continue to do that breath with internal rotation for about 120 seconds time under tension with 1 rep. And that's also going to be 1 set. Then you're going to go ahead and take 30 seconds off, relax, maybe get a drink, get yourself all settled, and then go back down and do it again. So do 2 to 3 sets of that, maybe right when you get up and right before you go to bed, and maybe even in the middle of the day if you need to. So been doing that for a week. Test yourself, lie down, and just do internal rotation of the leg from the hip and see if it turns on its own. It should, and if it doesn't, keep doing that same exercise. Now, this is all under the assumption that your organs and glands aren't inflamed and they're not inhibiting this muscle. If you find after 7 days that it's still not working, I would really encourage you to see a CHEK practitioner that has HLC training so that you can work on your diet, because that's truly the impetus of why your back is hurting you. It's the organ and glands which are reflexing to the musculature that are inhibiting it for stabilization. So let's progress that. Now we would go back down, and after our 7 days, everything is working beautifully. You can feel that strong muscle. It feels fabulous. And so then what you would do is you would inhale, exhale, and then add a side flexion to it, and then back down. And then back down. And again. Now, let's talk about the aspect of doing this on both sides, hence that you had an injury, which you know was post-lateral right or left. So in order to keep this alignment, you have centralized the discs, and now we're going to make both sides nice and strong. Okay, so centralize it. You would do your right side, and then you would do the left side. And then what I would encourage you to do for your third set is to come back and do it on the right side to finish your last set of breath, transverse abdominis activated, and then outer unit with obliques and rectus abdominis, so that you have a neuromuscular system that is sequencing properly and coupled with the right breath for the right movement, which will be very healthy to essentially having your spine heal and be functional as you move throughout your day. Thanks for taking your time to listen and learn about 3-part side flexion, 2 things that you can do to help your core and your lumbopelvic and any injury that you may have with your spine much better.